to be torn down. We do this with LeBron. We nitpick. And he's not the same player he was 7 years ago, but he still has so many advantages over everybody else, and we're doing it now with Tom Brady. I just looked at Pro Football Focus. The 3 highest-rated quarterbacks in the NFL are Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady. But, Colin, LeBron's way more athletic. That's never been why Brady wins. LeBron and Brady are much more similar than dissimilar at this point in their careers. LeBron can no longer give you 45 minutes a night and guard the best player for 45 minutes, and Tom Brady can no longer take 7, 8, and 9 hits. Okay, LeBron James needs the right piece to win a title, and Tom needs the right weapons to drive the ball down the field. But they have much more in common than you think. A, they're both innate leaders. They're business leaders. It is innate. LeBron has been built to lead. Social movements, basketball movements, businesses. Brady, similarly. They understand how to play with stars. Not everybody does. Big Ben can struggle with that. Westbrook can struggle with that. They get how to play with stars. Number 3, they're more committed than even other committed athletes. They also get the most emotionally out of teammates. I mean, AD was one of those guys that never played through injuries. Wasn't hurt much this year. And finally, they see the game. They don't just play it. LeBron's not playing basketball. He's seeing it, coaching it, and playing it. LeBron moves west. And for years, we bragged about how great the West was in the NBA. And then LeBron moves out there, and a year and a half in, we're like, well, the West has a lot of good teams, but they don't have any great ones. Oh, LeBron's team's the best. And Brady moves to the NFC, and for years we talked about how deep the NFC is. And by week 7, we're like, yeah, Seattle and Green Bay are good teams, but Tampa Bay appears to be head and shoulders better. Oh, by the way, LeBron leaves teams, they disintegrate. They're not just bad, they disintegrate. Even the well-run teams like Miami. Brady leaves New England, a well-run organization. 7 games later, they're disintegrating. They're very similar. Ask yourself a question. Is Tom Brady as good as Jimmy Garoppolo? I'd say yes, way better. Garoppolo was in last year's Super Bowl. Is he better than Jared Goff? He was in the year before Super Bowl. Is he better than Matt Ryan? He got to a Super Bowl 3 years ago. Tom and LeBron can't do everything they could 7 years ago. But their passion, their commitment, their intelligence, their innate leadership, their efficiency, their understanding how to elevate others, there's nothing else out there like it in the NBA or the NFL. Nick Wright will dispute that in 5-10 minutes. Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Trevor Lawrence is considered the likely first overall pick in the draft in 2021.
Yes.
But he said the option of returning to school for one more year hasn't been completely ruled out yet.
We'll just have to see how things unfold. I think there's a lot of factors in that. But honestly, just really playing this year, putting everything I have into it, not really focusing on next year, whether, I leave or stay or whatever. Obviously, I have the option to do either one. Kind of my mindset's been that I'm going to move on, but who knows? There's a lot of things that could happen.
Okay, sunshine.
It sounds like a shot at the Jets to me.
It is a shot at the Jets, and I'm not mad at it. The Jets have not done anything to earn any of our respect this year, and
this year? How about this decade?
Well, look, they've had some years, right, where they've had pops.
You're right.
2010 wasn't a bad year.
You do realize, though, you don't need New York anymore, especially in the NFL.
You don't need New York. But I will say this. When I first heard this story or the rumblings of this, and I have no problem with Trevor Lawrence saying that. Nobody believes he's going back to school.
That's right.
He's not. He's not, and he shouldn't. But he also should say that because he should keep teams on alert. Because even though we're saying with full confidence that he's not going to, the fact that he can is leverage that he should use.
Look how good he is.
He's amazing.
The Jets have not earned that.
The Jets have not earned that.
Kansas City didn't win Super Bowls, but they earned Mahomes. They traded up to get him,
and they were one overall in the draft.
But they were capable. They were always capable. They were well-owned and smartly run. They just didn't have the guy. Like, you can be average, but when you're poorly run, you don't deserve Trevor Lawrence. You haven't earned Trevor Lawrence.
If you're at the top of the draft, you've earned the number 1 overall pick. That's how the draft works. We don't love it because we We don't necessarily want to reward terrible teams with the best talent that's coming out of college, but that's how the draft works. Because you, in theory, want to make those teams better.
If there was a draft in our business, should we have to go to a crappy network? We have earned the right to pick and choose where we go.
No, but we're in a different business, which is all the more reason why I'm very pro player. I'm very pro leverage, but this situation does give me a bit of pause because it's going to add an incredible amount of pressure onto what is already very high expectations. If you look at the draft order right now, the Jets obviously have the number one.
It's done. It's over. They're the number one. It's done.
But they do have Sam Darnold, and we are all operating as if they're just going to move off Sam Darnold with whoever they bring in as a new head coach, and they might not.
I think they'd take Trevor Lawrence.
I think they do. I think they would want to as well. But if they are comfortable sticking with Sam Darnold and they trade out of that spot.
You can get the Colts would give you a lot for Sam Darnold. They'd give you picks.
How many?
Well,
Sam Darnold. What are you taking for? What are you taking for? What are you going to get for Sam Darnold?
Two second-round pick and a starter, a defensive starter and a second-round pick. And then I get Trevor Lawrence, and
So you're going to get more picks after that. The Jets have as many as 11 picks in this draft, including 2 firsts, 1 second, and 2 thirds.
Okay, give me another first or a second, and I'll give you. By the way, if I have the number 1 pick, I probably would take a first for Darnold. Why? Because I have Trevor Lawrence is the leverage.
But if you look at the draft order, look at the top 11 teams right now in the draft. What teams need a quarterback? You have the
Jaguars,
Washington.
That's it. Because Atlanta, Matt Ryan's too expensive for the next 2 years.
The Giants, we think, are going to stick with Daniel Jones.
I think they will.
Dolphins have Tua. Vikings have Kirk Cousins. They may not do it. Obviously, the Bengals have Burrow. Right. Cowboys have Dak. Chargers have Justin Herbert. So unless the Patriots make a dramatic move, so you're risking maybe Jacksonville. What's a better situation there? I don't know. There's a lot that can still play out. Obviously, we have a lot of football left to play, but this is going to be
fantastic. For our business, it's fantastic.
It's going to be an amazing conversation.
It's a quarterback draft, and those always are better.
Yes. And he's not the only one. So the 6-0 Steelers face another tough test this weekend in the Ravens, and Mike Tomlin says the defense is going to have to be at their best facing the strong Ravens rush game to remain undefeated.
They got quality backs, man. We got to get ready for all 3 of those guys. Ingram and Edwards and the rookie, all 3 guys. They utilize all 3. They utilize Lamar. I think Lamar's got 50 rushes. And they're a tough nut to crack.
They are. It's a fascinating game because I think too many of us, because Kansas City is not only a great team, but they're a bad matchup for Baltimore. We've discounted Baltimore, and it's like nobody else outside of Kansas City is having a great deal of success against Baltimore. So let's not forget that.
We're not talking about Baltimore at all. I was thinking about it this morning, like, man, Baltimore has been flying under, for all the hype that they had going into the season, they've been flying under the radar the last couple weeks. Like, we're talking about the Bucs, we're talking about the Chiefs, we're talking about the Steelers, talking about the Titans. What about the Ravens?
Still a very good football team, well-run, star quarterback.
This is a great game this weekend. Lamar has 50 carries and 2 rushing touchdowns this year. Now, obviously, the Steelers' defense is incredible. They're 6th in fewest points allowed per game, fewest yards allowed per game, 2nd fewest rush yards allowed per game, and the most sacks this season. So this is going to be a great AFC North game.
By the way, I had a winning Blazing 5. I made my picks this morning. It is a great betting week. You get about 5 a year where you're like, of the 16 to 20 weeks in the NFL, you get about 4 to 5 a year where the numbers are great. And coming off a winning week, I'm probably have too much hubris. It is a great numbers week in the NFL. It really is.
Finally, speaking of the AFC North, the Bengals are reportedly trading defensive end Carlos Dunlap to the Seahawks.
This is what the trading deadline is for. Yes. Bad teams get picks. Good teams get players.
Cincinnati will receive an undisclosed draft pick and a player in return, and Dunlap has been upset with his role with the Bengals defense this season. So he was told to stay home today while the team worked on a trade, and the Seahawks get some defensive help that they need.
Smart veteran player. He'll figure the playbook out quickly, gives you about 9 to 11 sacks a year. This is exactly what Seattle needs. Now, he's not going to be a great player for 4 or 5 years, but if you can you get 15 great games out of him? Could you get this year and next year? That's a great.